Caution, the following feature has been rated X. It is not for the faint of heart. Parental discretion is advised. However, if you're the type of football fan who enjoys the physical variety, have we got a helmet-knocking, bone-jarring tilt for you. Soldier Field was indeed an appropriately named arena, as two tough armies engaged in hand-to-hand last Sunday when the Raiders came to town to square off with the not-so-gracious host Chicago Bears. The feared silver and black locked in mortal combat with the monsters of the Midway. The acquisition of cornerback Mike Haynes solidified the Raider defense last season and helped bring the Pride and Poise boys their third world championship. The hero of Super Bowl 18 was Marcus Allen, and as the AFC's all-purpose yardage leader this season, he's one big reason why the Raiders came into this contest with an imposing 7-2 record. Allen will have his work cut out for him today, as Mike Ditka's men are the toughest in the league to run against. And the guy who's doing a great job in stopping opposing runners is Mike Singletary, arguably the best inside linebacker in the game. Offensively, the Bears have been a bit inconsistent, but now that quarterback Jim McMahon is healed, Chicago has shown signs of an offensive resurgence. Of course, when the Bears need the critical first down, they call on wondrous Walter Payton, the NFL's all-time leading rusher. And you can bet that Walter will be pumped up for this one for sure. It's the Raiders and the Bears in a war on the NFL Game of the Week. Early in the contest, both teams were forced to punt. Defense would be the order of the day. Every inch would be fought for. Every yard would bring a new bruise. Points would be scarce. On LA's second possession, quarterback Mark Wilson found out that if the Bear defense looks tough on film, they're even more talented live. Number 21, Leslie Frazier, intercepted, but fortunately for Wilson, the theft took place out of bounds. Then Chicago's fierce pass rushers decided to get a look at Mark up close and personal. Otis Wilson's sack temporarily sidelined his namesake, but an alert Kenny King pounced on the fumble for the Raiders. Another look shows that number 73, Mike Hartenstein, had an easy shot to recover, but simply couldn't find the handle. While Raider trainers attended to Wilson, Jim McMahon attended to the matter at hand. Speedster Willie Gault performed the virtually unthinkable by beating All-Pro Lester Hayes deep, and then the Raiders attempted the unthinkable. They tried to arm tackle a determined tack named Walter Payton. Payton brushed aside Los Angeles and scored from 18 yards out. Chicago's 7-0 lead was the result of McMahon staggering the count, drawing the Raiders off sides, putting them out of position in bad shape to stop number 34. Tough physical opponents have always brought out the best in Payton. The Raiders are such an opponent, and Walter, as usual, would rise to the occasion today. With With Wilson temporarily indisposed and Jim Plunkett unable to perform, the unenviable task of facing the Bear defense fell into the hands of third stringer David Humm. Behind David, the Raiders' offense hummed, but only briefly. Humm found Marcus Allen a willing target, but when he tried to hand off to tackle Bruce Davis, number 79, Raider coach Tom Flores started praying for a quick return of starter Mark Wilson. Last week, Chicago recorded an astounding 11 sacks against Minnesota, and they would add another 9 today. Some quick addition and you come up with a remarkable 20 sacks in 2 games. Now that is a pro pass rush. Mike Hardenstein did recover this fumble, and quite predictably, the Bears did what they do best. They gave Peyton the ball. With less than a minute remaining in the quarter, Ditka gave up a sure 3 points and ran Peyton once more on 4th and 1. The Raiders can play a little defense too, and Peyton was stopped cold. More good news for the visitors came when Mark Wilson returned to run their offense. A patented one-handed grab by Todd Christensen netted an important first down, and then Wilson decided to gamble on a pass a bit deeper. Leslie Frazier picked off the lame duck pass. Wilson had hit his hand on a lineman's helmet a couple of downs earlier, and clearly his hand was not going to be as accurate as it was 3 weeks ago when he fired 5 TD passes against the Chargers. Moments later, Peyton gave his Bears a 14-0 lead. Peyton got the corner from 8 yards out, and suddenly LA trailed by a pair of touchdowns. Walter's score fired up the defense, and especially number 95 Richard Dent, who set his sights on Humm, who once again had come in to spell Wilson. Humm was blasted once more, but 2 plays later he found a wide open man. Unfortunately, that person happened to be veteran safety Gary Fencing. Chicago couldn't take advantage, but Richard Dent took advantage of another opportunity to hammer Humm. The Bears were using Humm as a punching bag, but McMahon wasn't finding the afternoon to be a day at the beach either. This was clearly not a good day to be taking snaps from center. Such snaps generally resulted in sacks, or in this case, interceptions. Number 26, Van McElroy, picked it off and gave the Raiders excellent field position. And for the second time, Mark Wilson appeared to see if he was up to the task. He needed help with his chin strap, and shortly thereafter, he needed help in getting up from the familiar Soldier Field turf. Wilson's biggest gain came on a 15-yard roughing the passer penalty, and Chris Barr finally got the Raiders on the board from 34 yards out. Despite being pushed all over the field, the Silver and Black trailed by only 11, 14-3. The battle was half over, but the war was far from over. Surprisingly, in 1984, the Raiders have been one of the easiest teams in the NFL to run against. And with run-stuffer supreme Matt Millen injured, the Bears, and particularly Walter Payton, were finding cracks in which to pound out 5, 6, and 7 yards a pop. This trend continued as the second half got underway. But on 3rd and 2, the Raiders made a stand. They stopped Matt Suhey for no gain, flexing the muscles that characterize Raider might. And when fullback Kenny King, number 33, began Los Angeles' first offensive series of the half with this 14-yard burst, the Raiders appeared to have awakened. Tough inside running by Marcus Allen followed, as Los Angeles tried to beat the Bears at their own physical game of power and strength. But Chicago did not break, and the Raiders had to settle for a Chris Barr field goal of 40 yards. Midway through the third period, the Raiders had yet to score a touchdown, and they trailed Chicago 14-6. This was Walter Payton's kind of game, and number 34 wanted all Chicago fans to enjoy it as much as he was. Payton is a true warrior. He asks no quarter, he gives no quarter, and against the Raiders' physical style of play, Sweetness did what he does best, grinding out yard after yard, always more than he seems to be getting. An occasional pass by reserve quarterback Steve Fuller, replacing an injured Jim McMahon, helped sustain an impressive Bears drive that began on their own 14-yard line. 2 short completions to Emery Moorhead and 6 Payton runs had the ball in Raider territory. Again on a 3rd and short, Los Angeles held, stopping Payton for a loss. But the Bears had taken nearly 7 minutes off the clock and still led 14-6. The Raiders, with Mark Wilson less than 100%, stayed with their running game. While it proved somewhat successful, it was apparent as the third quarter came to a close that Los Angeles had to throw in order to have any chance at all against the NFL's best defense. On the first play of period 4, a Mark Wilson pass was batted down at the line of scrimmage. But that didn't stop Chicago's secondary from making its presence felt. The Bears were giving Los Angeles some of its own medicine, and the Raiders, normally the ones who dish out the punishment, were getting frustrated. The 14-6 score in the fourth quarter had the Raiders a little edgy. The Monsters of the Midway were alive and well in Chicago. The 1984 version was the best in pro football, and it came as no surprise that they were shutting down even the Raiders. What was a surprise was the Bears' next offensive series. Little-used running back Calvin Thomas, number 33, carried the ball on 5 consecutive plays, and the third-year free agent powered out 2 Chicago first downs. The Bears did not capitalize on Thomas's bullish running. The drive was stopped when Steve Fuller was sacked by the Raiders' defense. But again, just as in period 3, Chicago had controlled the ball for a long time, this drive eating up over 7 minutes. The fourth quarter was half over. The Raiders still needed 2 scores to win. This was not the best of days for Mark Wilson. He had actually been injured twice in the first half, but was forced to gut it out when his backup David Humm was also hurt. Now, with the ball on his own 6-yard line and 7 minutes remaining in the game, he was face to face with the NFL's finest defensive unit. The Bears, with their intricate defensive combinations, had sacked Minnesota quarterbacks 11 times the week before and had made Wilson well aware of their furious pass rush. But Wilson responded courageously. Throwing from his own end zone, he hit Dokie Williams for 31 yards and some breathing room. Three plays later, it appeared finally to come apart for Wilson and the Raiders. Wilson's pass was picked off by Leslie Frazier, number 21. But the Bears were called for a personal foul, nullifying the interception. The Raiders were somehow hanging on, still with a chance to win. And when Marcus Allen, on the halfback pass, beautifully led Todd Christensen for 38 yards, the Raider mystique of come-from-behind victory surfaced in a hurry. But the next play proved most important. Wilson, with time, spotted Christensen alone at the goal line, but he just overthrew his tight end, and a seemingly easy touchdown was missed. The following play definitely and defiantly ended all Raider hopes. Defensive end Richard Dent, number 95, who would end the day with 4.5 sacks, stripped Wilson of the ball and pounced on it himself, as the Bears defense made yet another big play. All season long, these new monsters of the Midway had been frightening opposing offenses into sacks and turnovers. Many felt that would not continue against the Raiders, one of the most physically imposing teams in all of football. But these monsters were on the prowl. Men with less than familiar names like Otis Wilson, number 55, Al Harris, Steve McMichael, and Richard Dent. The Bears sacked Raider quarterbacks 9 times, increasing their league-leading total to 47, almost 5 per game. They also intercepted 3 passes and recovered 2 fumbles in their second consecutive awesome defensive display. And when place kicker Bob Thomas drilled a 29-yard field goal with just over a minute remaining in the game, the Bears had their final points in a physically impressive 17-6 win over the defending Super Bowl champion Raiders. The victory was the Bears' 3rd straight, and it marked the 5th time in 10 games that the defense had not permitted the opposition to score in double figures. The Bears are now 7-3 with a commanding 4-game lead in the NFC Central Division. With each passing week, their formula for success becomes more and more apparent. They rely on bone-crunching defense and the brilliant running of the NFL's all-time leading rusher, Walter Payton. It's a formula head coach Mike Ditka is more than happy with, where it has produced in 1984 what has been lacking recently in the Windy City: a winning football team capable of making its imposing presence felt every time it steps on the field.